Hello everybody and welcome to another list video here at PBG. Oh my god, PBG, I forgot my own channel's name, but I'm joined by Quick Learner. We're here for another list video and it's gonna be a great time. So today we're gonna be talking about 3 cards that burned us. I guess the question is, what does this mean to you? I kind of threw this one to you just before, but I'd love to hear your definition first.
Well, it's a card that I thought was going to be good or playable or just, be getting you ahead on the game for the most part. And then when it does it, you're kind of like, oh man, I mean, you had a big fantasy, a promise, and it didn't live up to those expectations.
Yep.
Or at the very least, it gave you a drawback that you were not expecting or hoping for.
Yep.
Something you had to manage in ways that you weren't planning for in that deck, and you need to do some extra things to make it work. So that's kind of what I went with.
Yeah, very similar for me. Were either cards that one of them I've tried multiple times, and it's never worked, and it's never going to work. And hopefully this time I'm convinced by it. So that's what this one's there for this one on the list here. But it's also like the big thing where like expectations were high and then they failed. And then also a card that I actually found detrimental and I ended up cutting after adding it to my deck with experience. So
that's tough.
Yeah.
And I'm generally a card apologist here, so I like to find the deck where it works, and I like to make it sing with all of the parts that it wants. And then sometimes you just are like, if it's not, it doesn't have to work 100% of the time for me, but if it's disappointing me, like seriously disappointing me to go on this list, that's saying something, I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's throw to you for the first one here. Oh, wrong list.
Oh, I have 5 cards now?
Yeah, that's a preview from a list video that's going to be coming out in a few weeks. I did not change that over, but it's not, I mean, first I called the channel PBG, so, that's the vibe for this whole one here. I'll look back in a year and be like, this is the list video that burned me. All right, now we're proper with your first one here, which is...
Oh man, we played a paradoxical run on my channel, and we did not make it through. We got locked in the asylum. Sorry, spoiler alert for a video that came out like 6 months ago. But there's a big promise for this covenant. It reads interesting, that you can put both bless and curse tokens in the bag, and then sometimes you get to reveal 2 of them. You stop revealing tokens after that. You just automatically succeed. Sounds great. I'll load up my deck with a bunch of cool things to take advantage of bless tokens and curse tokens. Throw in an Olive McBride 2 or something so I can draw both of them in the same test. Lots of stuff. And then, your deck is full of stuff to make this work, and then it doesn't actually do anything else. It was not a good time when half your deck is trying to make a combo work, and that's half is way too much, right? Yes. Just because you want to take advantage of all these cards in the archetype, and then your cards don't get ahead on tempo anyway. Like, all this does is make you automatically succeed a test. That is good, but not great. Because I'm playing most decks to succeed tests, period. I don't care what tokens I draw, just not that one token. So what is this giving you that other, archetypes aren't? And I have no idea, because it just didn't work, and it was kind of sad. I'm sure it works for some people. You've told me that Travis loves this thing and can make it work, but I've only tried it the one time, and it was not great. Plus, it gets outshadowed by like Ancient Covenant, which just does the same thing.
Yeah. Travis, I mean, most of his paradoxical stuff that I've seen him play has been in 3-player, which, as we know, is when things start to get a little bit like you could do kind of whatever and make it work. But I completely agree that this card has burned me as well. I don't like to say this lightly, and it wasn't because of the company that I kept, but that paradoxical campaign was miserable, right? Like, it was just a bad experience. And like, it was just, I remember when we both got locked in the asylum, we had like a moment where we were like, okay, so are we going to keep this going? And then there was a day when we were both like, yeah, we'll keep it going. But I think both of us in our hearts were like, I don't want to do that again. I think that this problem with this card is that the payoff is just bad. It should have been what the the diadem is, where it's just an elder sign instead. Like, yeah, that's a powerful effect, but it's also kind of an archetype, right? So the effect should have been very powerful. If they were worried about being too powerful, keep it too experienced, make it exceptional, right? Like, just like do that kind of thing to like make it fit. But just as it is, this card is like, it has a fantasy, but the fantasy, when you start doing it, you're like, wait a minute, this wasn't actually worth it. I mean, Carcosa probably wasn't the best campaign to do it in.
We had 2 mystics also, so
yeah.
That was tough.
And as we just talked about, that is a campaign of restrictions, and like we already had so many stipulations on our deck that kind of really, really hurt us.
Yeah, I really think that it did some interesting things sometimes, right? There was a scenario where I was passing a bunch of tests on basic investigates with Father Mateo that I was like, well, I'll draw these 2 tokens, guess I'll pass. But again, the payoff was, so what, right?
Yeah.
Literally every investigator should be able to do what the payoff was, succeed on the test. I was doing a basic investigate because my deck was full of junk.
Yeah.
And I didn't just have 6 Sense in play or literally any investigate spell that would have helped. I mean, I had some of those cards. It's just that the density of do things cards was way too low. And what this card does is makes you, at least in 2-player, run into that trap where I bet I can make all this other paradoxical stuff happen. And it just, sometimes it does. But oftentimes, because this is a game where you draw random cards from your deck, you don't have time to mess around with that, especially in solo and 2-player. I think this is a fine card if you're just throwing it in and you have, a team that just happens to have a bunch of Bless and Curse tokens in.
Yeah.
But if you're going all in on the archetype, I think this is the trap that incites that kind of problem.
Yeah, recently we were doing a run on Edge of the Earth, and Travis brought in the Eye of the Djinn, which I think is actually the true paradoxical card for the archetype. Because the reality is like, if you have access to Paradoxical Covenant, unless you are like Jacqueline or someone strange, like Maria or something, you also have access to probably one of the other covenants. And they're actually just going to do better for the team if you take one of the other ones, even if you're not using them, right? Because if you can take Ancient Covenant, congratulations, you have an easier Paradoxical Covenant, as you said, right? If you have False Covenant, you're mitigating curse tokens. If you have Blasphemous Covenant, you're probably also passing the test, which is what this card does, right? If you have the Sacred Covenant, you're just keeping the blessed tokens in there. They're all literally better than Paradoxical.
But it just boils down to the fact that most tests that you take in this game, you're already succeeding.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I'd be very curious if, like, I don't know, like if it was like a double curse token it causes you to pass, right? Where like if it both a blessed token and a curse token or 2 curse tokens are revealed, you automatically pass. But I don't know. It's all stuff that makes it powerful, but at the same time, I think this card might just be kind of stinky.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, it burned me because it's a trap. That's how I felt afterwards.
Yeah. All right, so mine might be a surprise to some people, but I've talked about this one before, but it's Fickle Fortune. This is the one that I added into my deck and then started to take out, and I put in 2 copies of this, so I essentially wasted a bunch of experience to put this card into my deck. The theory for this one was pretty sound. This is when we did our Scarlet Keys rerun, where we jokingly did we did side scenarios instead of the actual Scarlet Keys scenarios. And I brought this in because we were doing the Guardians of the Abyss, which is a very hard scenario, right? However, at a certain point, I was realizing that it was actually changing my mulligan strategy, because I did not want to see this in my opening hand. If I saw this in my opening hand, I was removing a turn from the players, because there's no Doom to remove. And to me, that actually makes this card unplayable, right? Like, if I'm trying to not draw a card in my opening hand, it's either like a combo piece that I want to get later, like Astounding Revelation, right? Like that's an example of a card that you don't want to see in your opening hand. But if I see this on my opening hand, it's actively making the team worse for everybody. It's essentially another weakness in my deck. So after 2 or 3 scenarios where I was realizing that Fickle Fortune was changing my mulligan habits for the worst, I realized that this card was actually a problem and I needed to remove it from my deck. Astounding Revelation, it's 0, it's free. This I had to spend money for. So that's where like the difference of the burn is. And the worst case scenario when you draw something like Astounding Revelation early is that I have to just commit it to a test, right? Or it's a card I discard. If this card is in your opening hand, you have to trigger it. You have to trigger it, and you have to just play some Doom and then heal some damage and some horror. I was also playing with Travis as a Vincent Lee, which he would have been super pissed if that happened as well, because I basically ate a bunch of his initial horror healing, damage healing that existed at the start of the game. But that's just a small reason for why it is. But at this point now, I think Fickle Fortune is kind of persona non grata for me. I just don't even interact with it. I don't even think about it because of how it burned me.
So you could still do the second option, right? Because everyone just takes a direct damage and direct horror, but then you're removing from the game. That also seems like,
yeah,
why?
Yeah, it's like one of those things. It's like it's the easier choice of the two, right? Like you do just like can ping everybody for 1 and 1, but as we know, people get 3 experience for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to pay 3 experience for the pleasure.
Yeah. It's like, to me, like, yes, the top action on this card is very good, right? Because it's very good in Magical Christmas Land, where the Doom is about to advance, or you're so far ahead, but for some reason dying to damage and horror, right? But, like, you're playing it, for me, is the bottom action, the extra turn, right?
Right.
But, like, the fact that it can just, like, kill your mulligan is just, like, I don't know. I just can't even deal with that. Because like you said, best case scenario, when you get it in your opening hand, is everyone's taking a damage and a horror, and then this card's gone, and you've just, like, wasted it. And, like, that seems so bad for 3 XP.
Yeah, I've never played with this card, mostly because I don't play in 4-player that much. And 3-player I play some, but we've never seriously thought about it. But the dilemmas have that issue, right? We did play with, and this was in the Forgotten Age, it was so funny in a Patrice deck where, there's 45 cards or something, right? 42? Whatever it is that she has. And opening hand after the mulligan pulls Nature of the Beast. That's the one where you get a clue from any location on the board, right? But also you have to draw an encounter card of the top 3 or something like that. That's fine, but if you draw in your opening hand and there's no clues on your location...
Yeah, you just get an encounter card.
Yeah, I mean, you filter a little bit, but it was just like, and that's the nature of the beast. It feels like a slap on the wrist in ways that this one is just god-awful, taking the bad version. So I'm with you there. The other ones are okay, right? The At a Crossroads is great in the opening hand.
Yep.
So...
Yeah, I feel like as a whole, dilemmas were a neat experiment, but needed some sort of protection. Like maybe like one of those things where like they were treated like basic weaknesses in your opening hand, like they just couldn't be in your opening hand. Yeah. Or like if they were in your opening hand, you could choose not to resolve them, right? I mean, this card wouldn't have done anything. It has no icons on it, but still.
If you get it in the discard pile and recur with Resourceful, that's sort of the dream, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that you like have control over it. I'm not a big fan of dilemmas. I mean, I agree. At a Crossroads is pretty good. I don't like playing it. I just think my actions are better spent not drawing cards. Yeah, good point. But like this one is like, I think just awful. After experiencing it, the art's great though. The artist did a great job.
Pretty cool. Yeah. I've heard some good stories. In Magical Christmas Land, probably. Again, I've never played it, so I can't speak pro or con. And I've never had it at my table, but people who are playing the secret scenario in Drowned City say there's like a ton of direct damage and horror, so this is good, but also okay, great. You
Yeah.
found a spot for it, and that's not really
Yeah,
indicative
that's
of the whole package.
100%. Yeah, yeah. All right, let's go to your second card here, which is.
Are you surprised? You should not be surprised. I played this card exactly once, and again, I did not play it because you cannot. But I thought it would be cool to throw this into the end of the run that we just played on my channel, which was Dream Eaters. I had a Daisy deck that did a reasonable amount of searching, not like tons, but there was practice makes perfect. There was Old Book of Lore. That might be it. But even so, for 1 XP getting 3 copies, I've always looked at this card and said, it's fine. Like, it's one icon, but getting that search effect seems kind of cool, but not super high impact. It's just kind of thing you can do. Anyway, I drew it during my turn or during upkeep, all 3 of them.
Yeah.
And then I said, I don't know if I need to play this card again
Yeah.
for my deck because, yeah, I mean, again, it has one icon that's bad, but not unplayable. It's just, it burned me.
Yeah.
Burned the idea that I had that I could find this and then put it in my threat area and then get an extra card draw. That would have been neat. And yeah, that was not to be.
Yeah, this one it kind of feels like it's insulting you when it happens,
Yeah.
you know? It's just like it's like bullying you. It's the same thing with like the Fickle Fortune to a much lesser extent for like this one, but it's like the Astounding Revelation too, right? You draw those cards at the wrong time and you're just you're ending up feeling, well, why is this in my deck, right?
Copies too.
Yeah, yeah, and they're just taking up space. Like if they were like anything else, like if they were just like I'm sure you probably already have perceptions, but if they were a perception, you would have been like, let's go, right?
Yeah.
And I think that ultimately Astounding Revelation is so good that it makes up for those times, but I think Surprising Find doesn't, right?
Like all it does is give you +1 and then potentially a card draw. Like that's Seeker's bread and butter is already to do all that.
Yep.
Can't I get a better rate with literally any other skill card in my deck? Probably.
Yep.
I don't know. It's just, hey, this is also a fortune card, just like the last one. I feel like there's a theme here about cards burning us if they have a fortune
The
trait.
Fortune. Well, maybe Fortune. I mean, maybe they use it. I mean, curious to see if they have any on the back end where like maybe there's like a bit of luck involved with Fortune cards, right? If that's something like they sometimes tag with, where it feels like that kind of thing.
So if you compare this to another fortune card that is, gambling a bit, right? 21 or bust, which is not on our list. Well, maybe it's on yours. I don't know. No? Okay.
No.
That one's fun to play. Like, you can
Yes.
get burned by that. But there's something engaging. There's a little bit of decision making. But
Yep.
as you said, when you draw this card, and Astounding Revelation to some extent, but that's 0 XP, and you're right, it makes up for, like, the fast 2 resources or a secret is strong. And you can do other things with it if you need to. 21 or bust is just fun to play, and
Yep.
I don't know. That's just much more interesting, and I'll go back for more even if I get no resources out of that.
I think that's the big thing where for cards like this that are a little bit swingy in how they perform. Like you look at a card like, let's go back to Perception or Deduction. Those cards always do what they say, right? Surprising Find, 21 or Bust, Astounding Revelation. Those are kind of swingy cards. And in order to have a good downside, the upside needs to be really good. 21 or Bust, it has 2 upsides. One is that it can get you like 9 resources, right? The other upside is that it's very fun to do. The downside is that you just spend 2 resources in an action to bust, but most people I've seen stop at 19 or 20, right, if they hit that. Yeah. And that's still, 5 or 7 resources, so that's still very good, right? But this card, what's the downside? You're drawing it, you paid one experience, well, really like a third of an experience for 1 skill icon. But Astounding Revelation just does that. So, like, why not take the free one compared to the one that costs 1 XP?
Yeah, and it's 3 deck slots, which to me is kind of a big deal. I can do better with 3 deck slots.
Yep.
And XP is not that big of a deal. Like I think level 0 is better just because you start with it in your deck and you're making the conscious choice to add this in later.
Yes.
Kind of go back to your whole thing about the Fickle Fortune card, right? So this just feels like an insult. Like I spent XP to put this in, and then it did nothing. So make that base.
Yeah. It kind of, yeah, it feels like you made the mistake doing that. Yeah. I will say though, like especially in like a grand scheme, like I'm playing this right now in the Dream Eaters campaign play along, where you're only playing with the core Dream Eaters and the Investigator decks.
Yeah.
And there you kind of like want the 3 slots because they're less valuable. But when you have a full collection, like, yeah, there's so many cards that just fill those slots better. I think that's a very important distinction you just shared, and I agree with that completely.
You're playing Daisy too. I mean, I get that whiffing on all 3 of them gives me the sour taste, and that's not necessarily the best way to evaluate things.
Oh, it is.
But...
I agree. Sometimes you got to follow your gut. You got to follow your gut.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, I gave it a shot though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe I'll talk to you in it again one day in the future. Burn you again.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I feel like I did give it like the proper shot of the cards to build around for it.
Oh yeah, you had the things you needed. I think like the only thing that would have been great for that was an old school untabooed Mr. Rook, right? And that's what this guy existed in, right? Where you could search the top 9 as on a whim, right? Like that's the environment they designed this card for, but that environment no longer exists.
Good point.
Yeah. All right. My number 2 is Lab Coat.
Oh, you've tried this one. I've not.
Okay, I've tried this one 7 to 8 times. And I don't know why I've played it that much. I think it's because... I don't know. This is a cry for help. This card has burned me so much. And I'm pretty sure it's like... This is the 2nd or maybe even 3rd time where I've said I'm never playing this card again. And I don't know why it keeps tricking me. Like, I have no idea. Maybe it's like I fell back into it because of chemistry set.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, okay, I can get 2 resources when it happens, right? But every time I've played Lab Coat, so 2 things happen. Every time I play Lab Coat, it never actually gives me the 0, right? Like, it never gives me the -1 to succeed by 0 instead. Or, alternatively, I look at Lab Coat in my hand, and I say, I don't want to play this. I don't have time to play this. This isn't worth playing right now. I'll just win the game instead, right? And that's, like, not good if you're looking at the cards in your hand and saying that. I think a bigger thing is that also that I think Stylish Coat is just, like, quietly quite efficient. Like, yes, it is just an equally more restrictive and less restrictive Lone Wolf, but it's still one of those things that you're very easily activating at once a turn, right? And it's just going to give you the stuff, and there's other combos with it with hidden pockets. And that might be kind of the thing that this is like the sister card to Lab Coat, but it just doesn't do anything. And I always put it in as a 1-up because I'm like, I have 1 XP left. I'm not a big fan of Hiking Boots, but I shouldn't be a big fan of this card, so I don't know why this one makes the cut over that, because in theory, Hiking Boots can at least give me +1 agility, so like that's something, right? But I don't know why, but this card is like it's like a tapeworm in my stomach, and I'm asking for everybody to please burn it, because it's burned me enough.
I mean, this is Grimm's Fairy Tales to me. That's how it reads.
Yeah.
You think that this might happen, and then it doesn't most of the time, and you wonder why you spent the action and slot to play it. So it needs something else on it. I don't think it just like fast would make it more playable, although that would help. I think it just needs another reason to play it. Like, it's not like it's protection on cards that might be like autofill protection if it happens to be a skill test of 1. Right? That's like so rare. Otherwise, I don't know. It's just not going to happen enough for you to put in your deck or into play.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's very interesting because Artistic Inspiration is an example. I've used that card so much to succeed when I was failing by 1 or less, right?
Right.
But because this one's only on a seeker card, because like we can all agree that half a lucky is a very good thing, even if that lucky is a little bit restrictive, right? Like a lucky is just really nice. And now you might be thinking like, but Justin, what if like this is what my brain's telling me, but like Justin, you played this card with artistic inspiration, but now if you fail by 2 on like a card that is essentially becoming a lucky with lab coat, and this is the evil demon that's inside of me trying to talk to me about lab coat here. But it's one of those things that because it's like a bigger restriction, it's not going to trigger as much. Like I've played this with Grim Memoir chemistry set quite a bit, and it's usually only a one of, but that's still like Surprising Find. That one slot would be much better if it was something that actually did something. And unlike Surprising Find, I'm mad if I draw this, even if I'm mad that I already drew this, right? Because like Surprising Find's a wild for anything. This one is just going to take up space until I eventually choose to discard it from my hand, and then I regret even putting it in the first place.
Yeah, so I've thought about artistic inspiration as being literally the same thing, except for on any test.
Yes.
It's crazy. And that one's slotless too. Granted, you don't have to feed it cards, but I think we both agree that that's not that big of a deal in practice. Like you figure that out pretty quickly.
Yeah, feed it your lab coat that you put in your deck.
I love how this thing has soak, right?
Yeah.
You never actually want to use it for the soak, but I guess it's there.
Yeah. I would love it if it was like a... If it was like the Heavy Furs type thing where it had like 3 damage soak and no horror. But you could exhaust and deal it damage to do it by 2 or less instead. Right? Like...
Cool.
Yeah, like that would be like more like I think it still wouldn't be good because I think artistic inspiration shows that these cards need to be unrestricted to really get the value out of them, right? But now 3 soak is a lot, right? Like that could be something that could be interesting to a lot of seeker investigators as well.
I like it though because you get a little bit of thematic, like maybe you spilled some of that weird alchemical concoction on your lab coat or something, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. That seems kind of interesting. But yeah, it's not quite there.
Yeah, no, I actually could probably look up on Patreon where I do my monthly deck list, and I probably have one where I'm like, I'm never playing Lab Coat again, and I just put this in my Ursula deck for some reason, or I was recording with Eric for Innsmouth, and then during the retrospective I said, I'm never putting this card in again. So this is my 3rd and hopefully final time. If anyone's watching and they see me try to put this card in my deck, remind me, please. I need help. I don't know why this card gets me the way that it does.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I this is a surprise to me because I've just never looked at this and said, here's how I can make this do anything. So, and I've looked at Grimm's Fairy Tales and say, I think I can make this do something.
Yeah, I know. I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. I really don't. Because I don't think the card's good. But it's still like I wake up like Jekyll and Hyde and it's in my deck. And then I draw it and I'm like, why is this here? Like, oh, that's right. The demon took control and put this card into my deck. So, yeah, and like this, it's embarrassing because it hasn't even burnt me once. It's like literally been like 4 times. So, all right, let's go. Yeah, your number 1 is.
Okay, Shriveling level 5 is a classic card from the Dunwich Legacy, and I think it's a very neat effect. You've got 1 slot for 3 damage attacks, and this is using your good number in Mystic. You get +3, and maybe you think about this in Agnes and say, I can take that horror that Shriveling does. Maybe it deals an extra damage to an enemy at my location. Wait a minute, this does 2 horror?
Yeah.
And it turns out that extra horror is a huge difference than just the single horror. I know that you've already written this card off like a long time ago saying, I will stop at level 3. And for 2-player, I maybe that's most of the time you've seen it, I agree. But sometimes when you feel like you need to get a bunch more damage onto the boss, you're like, okay, let's try the level 5 version of this or Azure Flame. And it's tough. Like, what kind of blowback do other weapons have in the other classes, right? And I get this is like pretty cheap, 3 resources, again, 1 slot compared to your lightning guns at all. but it's still something you need to figure out how to deal with. And for Agnes, I think it's okay because you are mitigating horror anyway. You're doing a lot of healing. You're doing Peter Sylvester. You're doing stuff to deal with your dark memory. That's just something that a good chunk of your deck already does. In other investigators, you need to figure out a way because it's not just happening once. It's going to happen probably 50% of the time. And I know that's maybe not the math of the chaos bag, but it'll happen. And you can't just go from being engaged with an enemy and having 1 or 2 horror on you to having 5. And then you need to kill the enemy because you can't take another attack. So it's a tough blowback. Now, I know that one thing you can do is play those cards like Eldritch and Inspiration, I believe it is, to cancel that horror that you take. I generally don't because I feel like I want to just heal instead because it's more versatile, I think, for a deck that's going to take horror anyway. The best place I've found this card is, I think it was Akachi running the Empty Vessel, the one that heals you if you take those. Sorry, it heals you and you don't take those symbols. So it's really good, I think.
Yeah.
But it's a tough card. So burned, yes, because it deals you a bunch of damage, and I just feel like it's a good card. I want to keep playing it.
Yep.
But you really need to think about what else you're going to do in this deck to not die, because it's going to put you in some very tough spots.
Yeah. Yeah, so I actually have a good insight on this one because Travis is playing this in our Drowned City rerun that we're doing right now. And it does require a lot of thought into making sure that you have a way to mitigate the horror, right? And I agree with you completely. Those Eldritch Inspiration cards, those exist to double up good effects. Those don't exist to, like, reduce bad effects. There's just, like, better things you can do. I think, like, Fearless 2 is a good example of that and negates these. I think that the Wish Eater with Akachi is kind of cool because you, like, basically take horror now to not take horror later, right? Like, to heal the horror later, which I think is really cool. But, like, the effect is really good, right? Like, 3 brain and 3 damage is a big chunk of things. An enemy has 9 health, and you're just like, okay, I'm just going to fire this 3 times. But you do need a lot to go with it. You can't just, like, upgrade your Shrivelings because you're like, I need to upgrade my weapon, right?
It's free with Arcane Research or whatever.
Like, Bryn is also trying to keep Travis alive. Like, Bryn and Travis are both trying to keep him alive with it. Which is where it, like, you have to make those decisions and be conscious with it, or, as you say, it will burn you to death slowly over time.
I think it's still fun to play, as you say. Like 3 damage is a lot. I was running this in Agnes, in Piece of Hemlock Vale, and some of those enemies have a lot of health, and you can get rid of them pretty quickly.
Yep.
I had Lost Arcana to make this, basically limitless in terms of the charges, which was kind of fun. But again, the more charges you have, the more times you might draw these nasty tokens. So you need a plan. And it's not bad. I mean, it's just interesting when I've now played other investigators who have like a 3 damage weapon. Probably takes up 2 hand slots because that's how most of them do it, but they don't have that blowback. So you play a Chicago Typewriter and you just deal 3 damage each shot and you're like, great, we've done it. And you're not constantly in dread of what token you pull. But you know what? Maybe the game needs a little bit more fear to instill in us as players, right? So
yeah, and I mean, I think it's also important that, like, so I think that this is why Current should have happened, in my opinion, ages ago, because the identities have kind of merged too much. Mystics had insane flexibility, but they had to make up for that by having downsides on their cards, right?
Yep.
Rogues used to have other downsides on their stuff, but they had, like, insane... They had, like, the concept of flexibility, but now rogues are incredibly flexible or incredibly good at focusing without any of the downside. And I feel like Mystics, they're still kind of living some of that downside, and they've explored it a little bit, like the Eyes of the Dreamer and Breath of the Sleeper. Those are, like, some of our first spells that, like, they don't even, like, brush the concept of... I know, like, Sixth Sense and Wither exist as well, but, like, they still had, like, that token interaction. Like, Eyes and Breath are kind of like, here's just, like, a new thing to explore in the class, right?
It's
And
interesting that those can do the 3 damage though without any sort of downside. It's just not consistent, right? You have
yeah,
to jump through other hoops to do it. And that's the question you have to ask, like, do I want to make that idea more consistent at level 0? Or do I want to do the thing that's really just obviously good, like this card, but it's going to cost us 5 XP and potentially kill you?
yeah, and I think like in the best situations and the best decks, the answer is kind of yes to both. You use like token manipulation and run what you can fire at the time, what's going to get you the best result.
That's right, because you can just use Olive or something and, potentially avoid resolving these, revealing these symbols, potentially,
Yeah.
right? Thankfully, it only hits you once if you draw two of them,
draw
right?
2 of them. I think a
Yeah.
big thing that is kind of like turned me away from this, and especially in 2-player, is because if you get like an enemy with like 1 health or 2 health and it's your only thing to fight, it feels so bad. But that's why like Breath of the Sleeper is starting to like potentially be a good thing, and why I've always said a way for a Mystic to fight 1 health enemies consistently is kind of very important to the class. But none of them have really taken off as to the extent that I hoped they would.
I mean, I think this combined with shriveling with Sword Cane is pretty good too, right?
Yeah.
You can use your hand slots. I think the fact that this only takes up 1 slot and there's more things you can put in your spell slots nowadays is pretty nice. So you could run Breath of the Sleeper as well. Or is that the fight one?
Yeah, Eyes of the Dreamer is the investigate one, yeah.
Okay.
Because she has her eyes, she's like, ooh. That's how I remember.
One last thing I wanted to bring up with Azure Flame, because it could have been that here too. I just haven't played it as recently. The damage versus the horror blowback on the different tokens. What do you think about that these days?
So I feel like Shriveling is worse because with Azure Flame you pass the test. With Shriveling, you could actually still fail the test.
Yeah, that's true. The autofail is really rough here.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. And even like a squid that's like -4, take a direct horror, which is like, or like take a damage or horror, is in Drowned City, and it happened to Travis. And he had to like pause. And Travis is normally a quick player, but he had to like pause and like assess. And like that's like, oh, that's how you know like the downside is really bad. Like, yes, Mystics have less health, but there's also, by the end of the campaign, generally there's what, +1, 2 zeros, 2 or 3 -1, so it's like 5 or 6 tokens, right? On higher difficulty campaigns, you're going to have 6 or 7 tokens by the end of it as well, like when you get to those final scenarios.
It's a good point. I think it's just Hemlock Vale that does this, right? That makes your like highest tokens or a random token like more negative. So if you turn a 0 into a -1, you're like, Azure Flame, let's go. Yes. It won't hit you anymore.
Yep. But I think the big thing what makes it worse is that like you can fail these tests, right? But like the Azure Flame is you're taking the damage, but you're passing the test.
Harder to remember sometimes though, because it's
100%.
like good thing happened.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah, you're like, I can never be punished for this. I'm so good. Yeah. All right, let's get to my final card, which is actually fittingly, you don't want to play it with Shriveling 5. It is Katarina Sojka. So,
all right.
This card was burned for me because my initial assessment on this card was very high. This happens occasionally where I see a card and I think this card is very good, and then I talk myself up into it. I think I gave it a 4 out of 5 for my initial assessment of this card. But she reminds me of someone, a certain trumpet player named Jim Culver, where you live in a world of this is always going to work out the way that I want it to, right? Like where you're like, this is my assessment of the card. I'm not scared of the fact that she increases my odds of drawing the autofail. That's not a problem for me. But the issue is that every time I've played her or seen her be played, someone is like, all right, I'm going to trigger this, and then they draw a symbol token that they weren't trying to draw like 9 out of 10 times. And I think that is ultimately what caused me to burn her. As I said at the start of this video, I had 1 because it changed my game plan and I thought that was bad. I had 2 because I kept playing this card and it just wasn't ever working for me. But Katarina was the one that was the assessment, where I thought that she was actually going to be very good, and it turns out that she was kind of just mid. I looked at her and I said, she is going to be my Olive McBride 0 until I get to Olive McBride 2. But ultimately, she is actually just, she like still has homes. Like, I'm not saying she's unplayable, but I think that she was much worse than I thought she was going to be, because while yes, token fishing, she gives you a symbol for sure. So like maybe you're drawing Bless, maybe you're drawing Curse, maybe you're trying to find a Skull token, right? Maybe you're Elder Sign fishing and just swinging for it. You still will just find a way to draw that tablet token that just doesn't work. Or that cultist token that says then reveal another token. Because a big thing about like pulling tokens of symbols is that they change from scenario to scenario. And it's hard to just get something that you can efficiently lock down that makes sure it works the way that you want to, when she's just adding like some forced randomness to you. Like you don't always have to draw the cultist token, but every time you activate her, you realize that you have a higher chance to, because it's only one of the, you went from like 16 possible tokens to 5 possible tokens, so the odds of that increased. And like, yes, your odds of the Elder Sign increased, right? It went from like 1 in 16 to 1 in 5. Like, that's a huge boost, right? But it also can like just not work, and just like that has really lowered her in my mind since I've played her.
So I've only seen her once, other than maybe I think the first time that you tried this with a deck that tried to seal everything.
Yeah, that was yeah.
That was interesting. I've seen it once where Volkgloss was playing with me, and he was trying to do the Eyes of the Dreamer, I think, or Breath of the Sleeper, whatever, and combo it to try to have more things to ignore. And this is the problem with this kind of token manipulation, is that you have this great idea, and it has an interesting payoff. You're like, this seems cool. I can get my 3 damage attack off, which, as we said a second ago, is quite powerful. But then it doesn't work, and you're like, well, now what?
Yep.
You draw, the wrong tokens. It wasn't one that you were able to ignore. If you pick it, you're going to fail a test anyway. That sort of thing is a problem. So, like, what do you do? What's your backup plan, right? Mm-hmm. And a 3 health enemy, or maybe even a 4 health enemy or something that's at your location, if you can't manage to get this done, you basically put yourself really behind, especially on an enemy. And I'm not against doing weird stuff to get a 3 damage attack out. You know that very well. But you need a way to make sure that happens. Mm-hmm. And I think Jacqueline Fine is the way to do it. I don't think that Katarina is consistent enough to make it worth the deck slots. I think you have to go with other manipulation to make those cards work. This is just a little bit too random to me.
Yep, I agree. So, yeah. I think if you play her, you're probably still going to do okay, but I think if you're going to play her, you're just like, okay, I'm up 4. But even then, if you're up 4, just like pull a token, and like then you're like, I don't know, man. She tricked me. Yeah. She tricked me.
Well, this is like Nikosi, right? Probably has tricked you in the same way. And to me, the biggest problem is the ally slot. Like, I want to combo these sorts of effects to make them more consistent, but I want Olive and Nikosi. I want Olive and Katarina or something to really fuel the idea that I can pick whatever token out of the bag that I want. But when you only have one, it's a bit random. When you have both, you're paying for charisma and a bunch of XP and a bunch of resources, and you might not see them at the same time. Yeah,
because like in the Father Mateo deck, because I built it for a patron game day, and another patron was sealing cards tokens as well. And the idea was that, we ultimately also removed the autofill from the bag. And the theory was that with Katarina, I had like a 33% chance of an Elder Sign, which is pretty good, right? But I think that even just Olive McBride 2 does that better, while just letting you pass tests with like less swinginess.
as long as she's your friend that day.
Yeah, don't have the olive that draws a -4, a -3, and then like 2 tokens that are -4s twice. Yeah, she was not nice to me that day. But that is also like the swinginess that Arkham can provide.
Which is fine, right? Like, I think there's a certain, as you keep saying, like, what's the percentage of drawing the token you want on these? And again, it gets complicated with a combination of effects and what you're trying to do with some of those cards that want you to ignore things. But it's got to be better than 30%. Like, that's not enough, because just blindly pulling from the bag when you're up 4 is already going to pass you the test 90%, right? Or more. So you need to, like, the effect has to be so much better to jump through these other hoops. And I don't think it is with her. I think it is with Olive.
Yes, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'd be curious of like, I mean, maybe it's like worth some testing compared to Katarina versus Olive 2 with like 6 cents 4.
Right.
Right? Like, do you take the chance of that happening with Olive, or do you just go for like the pretty much guaranteed, apart from the auto fail for Katarina? Like, that's like the interesting thing to find the home for it. Like, is Olive still better, or is Katarina there? My gut says Olive, just because, again, this lady burned me, but like maybe not in testing. Like, that's the thing that I think would be interesting to see there for token manipulation. But really, token manipulation is just like trying to artificially change randomness. So it's like,
and it won't be perfect.
Yeah. So it's like finding what is, there's a lot of different like metrics there to kind of consider.
I think I would try her with a bless or curse team a bit more, because you can actually flood the bag a little bit more than you otherwise could. So sometimes when you're like, this is like maybe a terrible idea, but Blessed Blade 0, right, which wants you to get a blessed token, your chances of revealing a blessed token when you ignore all the other all the other tokens in the bag that have numbers seems a lot higher.
Yeah.
So maybe that does something.
I mean, here's the thing. We set up the trap perfectly. We revisit Paradoxical, draw the curse token, try to fish out a blessed token. It's perfect.
That is what I was going to do if we were going to revisit.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to just pick different allies or something. Go with Kohaku and Katarina at level 0. And that, maybe that is something. But here we are, indeed.
Yeah, I mean, they were on the list, so maybe like Justin with lab coat, we gotta just let them lie, let sleeping dogs lie here.
Give me another year.
Yeah. When you play a lot of Arkham, sometimes things slip through, and also you sometimes just have to like try things out just to see if it works this time. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know down in the comments if there was a card that has burned you once or twice, because I'd love to hear that kind of perspective as well. In the meantime, this is... we'll be back tomorrow for another video, all the usual stuff. If you want to support the channel, like, comment, subscribe. You can join the Patreons down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Have a good one. And as always, a GG's.